Welcome to this explainer. We're about to dive into a pretty intense idea from the Carmelite tradition that our spiritual life isn't some peaceful walk in the park, but an all-out war for our very souls. So let's get right into the battle plan.
So, here's the core concept. From a Carmelite perspective, your life is an unceasing struggle. It's a constant tug of war between what they call the mystery of love and the mystery of iniquity. And, in any war, if you want to win, you first have to understand what's at stake.
And believe me, the stakes could not be higher. The biggest threat, the ultimate risk, is something called the catastrophe of mortal sin. Let's really unpack what that means. All right, so what is a mortal sin exactly? Well, according to the source, it's not some accident or a slip-up. It's a conscious, deliberate choice to violate divine law in a really serious way. But here's the absolute key. It's an act where you completely turn your back on God and instead focus all your desire on a creature, something finite, something of this world.
And the fallout from this choice? It's described as a total spiritual collapse. It's like a three-step system failure. First, the soul loses what's called sanctifying grace, which is basically its lifeline to the divine. Next, it loses all those infused virtues and gifts, the spiritual tools it needs to function. And finally, the soul, which was once considered a temple, just collapses.
The source material really doesn't pull any punches here. It uses some seriously stark language to drive the point home, describing a soul in this state as being, quote, dead before God for all eternity. I mean, wow, that's a powerful image meant to convey just how serious this is.
And if a person actually dies in this state, the source talks about two distinct, eternal torments. First, there's the pain of loss. This is a mental agony. Imagine wanting something with every fiber of your being, realizing it's the only thing that can make you happy, but knowing you can never, ever have it. Then there's the pain of sense, which is described as a physical suffering, a horrible, unquenchable fire. It's a truly terrifying picture of the ultimate cost.
Okay, so after hearing all of that, you're probably thinking, is there any hope? Is there any defense? And the good news is yes. The source lays out a spiritual arsenal for guarding the soul, and it really boils down to three core virtues, what we're calling the big three.
So here's your defensive strategy. First up is chastity, which is really about saying yes to authentic love, and that frees the soul from getting stuck on selfish desires. Second, you have sobriety, which is all about protecting our ability to think clearly and make free choices. And third, there's excellence, which is this drive to give the absolute best of ourselves to God and to other people. Think of them as a shield for both your heart and your mind.
But here's the thing. This spiritual battle isn't always about these huge, catastrophic moments. Sometimes, the bigger threat is much more subtle. It's a slow, quiet spiritual fade called tepidity. So what is tepidity? It's basically a state of spiritual indifference. A person in this state might avoid the really big sins, but they're only doing it because they're afraid of the punishment, not because they actually love God. They're not really trying to avoid smaller sins or seriously change their life. It's all about self-centered convenience.
And this indifference, this lukewarmness, it creates a really slippery slope. These so-called lesser sins, they still wound the soul. They weaken your will, and slowly but surely, they make you more and more likely to commit a mortal sin. It often starts with this dangerous little thought. God's not concerned with the details. And that's the trap.
Okay, so we've got the theory down, right? We've talked about the stakes, the weapons, the subtle threats. Now, let's see what this looks like on the ground, with a couple of real-life stories from the source material that show both the potential for ruin and the path to redemption.
First, let's look at the story of a man the source calls Juan. And honestly, his own words frame his struggle perfectly. He said he felt, quote, enslaved by uncontrollable lust, caught in a cycle that he just couldn't seem to break on his own.
And if you look at his story, it's a perfect storm of the concepts we've been talking about. He was stuck in this loop of mortal sin, and it was fueled by that spiritual indifference, that tepidity. See, he would confess his sins, but then he wouldn't take the radical steps needed to actually change. He chose to be isolated instead of getting help. And with every repetition, his will just got weaker and weaker.
Now, for a totally different story, we have Gina. Her journey is this incredible map from absolute ruin to a life of real purpose. 20 years of heroin addiction, even a broken back didn't stop her. But then came the turning point. It was a conscious choice, a total surrender to God, and crucially, seeking help.
Gina's victory is just this powerful, real-world example of the big three in action. By reclaiming sobriety, she got her clear judgment and free will back. But she didn't just stop there. She then went all in on excellence, dedicating her new life to social work and literally turning her past pain into a way to serve other people. Her story proves that redemption isn't just about stopping the bad stuff. It's about actively starting to build something good.
So, this all brings us back to one central final question. If we take on this idea that the spiritual life really is a battle, what does victory actually look like? Is it about avoiding one catastrophic mistake, one big, grand moment of failure? Or is victory found in the small, deliberate daily choices? The choice to fight indifference, to practice virtue, and to just stay in the fight day after day. The source material seems pretty clear. The real war is won not in one heroic, flashy moment, but in the quiet, consistent grind of the daily fight.